guys doing today? This is Cyril, and you're welcome to the Cloud Journey HQ. So today I'm going to give us some major projects that is required when you want to get started into the infrastructure as code platform in Azure. So I'm going to give us several tutorials on how to get started when it comes to deploying virtual machines from either the Azure Portal environment or also from the cloud environment, cloud shell environments. So basically, we have a quick start documentation already that talks about how to deploy or create a virtual machine. So you could actually create a Windows virtual machine, or you can create Linux, or you can also create a virtual machine skill set. So if you look at this at the right hand corner, you see the quick start documentation showing that we can create the Linux VM. You can also create the Windows VM. You can create the virtual machine skill sets. All right, but today we are going to just focus more on the Windows machine. As you can see, we have a CLI, which is command line interface. We have the portal. So from the portal is more like the GUI for Azure. We have the PowerShell. We have Terraform. So Terraforms can be Terraform VMs or Terraform cluster. So when you try to do stuff with infrastructure as code, for example, you could use this. Then we also have the biceps and ARM templates. So these three are more or less used for infrastructure as code because you could actually deploy your VMs using some YAML script or some XML or some JSON scripts. So you don't really need to go to Azure portals to run your script. Okay, so here we have the CLI environment. The way the CLI is being configured is that it kind of have the command which is AZ in front of it, then the task you want to do follows suit. So for example, you want to create a VM or you want to create a resource group, you should start with AZ in front of it, right? Then you write either the VM or resource group create, then all other parameters follow suit. So just the same way it also happens for Azure for the portal environment. So, but the portal is going to be maybe more or less a GUI environment side of it. So I'm going to just create from the portal first, then we can run the CLI afterwards. All right. So I have a subscription here currently. So I want to create a VM. So I'm going to create um a Windows machine. You can create a server. So when you come to virtual machine, yeah, you click on create. Then it tells you create virtual machines, right? So you click on this environment. It loads. So it loads an environment for us here. So if you see, we have the subscription. Then it asks you to create a resource group. So you could create your own personal resource group. So let's say I want to call this Windows test, win test rg dash rg. Okay, so I automatically create this one. So I can give my virtual machine name a Windows server. So if I'm creating a Windows server or Windows VM, all right. So win server. Okay, for example, I'm creating a Windows server, yeah? Then you can change your region to either not, depending on your location. So I have North Europe here, right? So let me just leave it this way. But then availability option, just to save cost, I could just use no infrastructure redundancy required. Then standard type, security type. So most times people use standard because it allows you to do all that virtualization inside of it. So yeah, I'm gonna use standard as well. Okay, So then the image, you can select the image. It's gonna show you a list of image to use from the marketplace. Then if you don't want to, you could just let me show you. Uh, you could also click on this. It shows you other images, just few of them, right? So here we have Windows 11 Pro, we have Windows Server 2019, we have Windows 2016 Server, then we have Windows 10 Pro. So you can create a Windows client machine. You can also create a Windows Server machine. So let me see, since we are creating the server as a test, let's create Windows Server 2022 data center. So I'm going to create Windows Server 2022 data center, which is this edition. So you can create Windows 11 if you want to. All right, we are done with that. Then architecture 64, better. Then the size of the VM. So currently I am having a B series here. So you can select the size you want. Uh, it depends on your cost and depends on what workload do you intend to work on this VM. So since this is more like a test VM, I can still leave it as 4 gig RAM, though the Windows servers might run slowly anyway, but then it's just like a test machine. So all right, so for the username you could actually make it stronger, but for the sake of this video I'm gonna just write Azure user. So Azure user, then for the password I'm gonna just put in my password. um, okay, then it's confirm. Okay, so I'm done with my password. So it gives us inbound rule, allow selected ports. So RDP 338 is what you need to allow for you to connect, especially if you're using a public IP. Now what I selected is my licensing that allows me to do the Azure hybrid benefits. Subscription can be used across all. Then you confirm this. So the next thing you need to do is to click on next, and it gives you the OS disk size. We have 128 here, or 127 gig. Then to reduce our cost, you're currently having premium SSD, so you can take it to standard HDD for the sake of testing. However, the premium has high ups and has high throughput. So, but for this sake, we don't really want something with high performance, right? So then we go to networking. So this side allows us to create our public IP and also select our private IP. So automatically it creates the VNet by itself. As you can see, we have the VNet created here. Then it creates the subnet by itself, created the public IP as well. Then public inbound rule with RGP 3389 also has been created. We don't need to create any load balancer for this VM. Yeah, we don't need that. So yeah, so for management we don't need anything here. We could just leave this as default for now. Advanced monitoring tags. So I think the best thing is just to review and create. You can actually do the other ones later on. So I'm gonna click on review and create just to create our Windows Server 2022 data center, and it's gonna pass validation that okay, everything is fine. Then we click on create, then automatically we have the machine created. So let's see. So it's gonna start creating all those dependencies. Like now we have the NSG has been created. The IP is currently on the way. the virtual network, then the VM itself. Already you have the interface created, then now the server machine is created as well. So these are the deployment process, and this is the same way you also have it when you deploy with your ARM templates, right? So it's already deploying all the resources. Automatically, it has created the resource group, which is win test. So let's go to the resource and confirm if our server is up and running. So initially, you might have this error message telling you the guest agent is not ready. You can just quickly refresh, right? Then you scroll to this area to confirm the status as well. So sometimes it takes like 1 to 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Then your guest agent becomes ready, and voila, you can access your virtual machine server. So you can also still access it this way. So let's check two things to confirm if the virtual machine is up and running. You could actually come to help, then check maybe boot diagnostics just to see. Yeah, so if you look at this, it shows that the VM is running fine because the screenshot telling us that the virtual machine has boot to the desktop environment. So yeah, then click on Serial Console. Let's confirm. So let's see if there's an output for Serial Console. The Serial Console is coming up already. Then let's hold on. Let's see if there's any outputs from this side. All right, so it's showing that we have the Serial Console also is up and running. All right, so you could click on connect here. You can click on connect here, click on connect, or click on via Bastion. So which of them works for you? All right, so let's click on connect. For example, you can either download the RDP client, which is this one, to use the public IP. When you download it, it saves on your computer, which is this. Then you can connect from this end. All right, it allows you to connect. So when you click on connect, it opens the environment for you. You can type your password. All right. So yeah, now let's have our Windows 2022 server machine. So this is the Windows 2022 server machine. It's coming up at this time. So we just have like a fresh Windows server virtual machine that we deploy from Azure Portal. Now it's taking this time to load up. Mind you, we actually used 4 gig RAM, so we may have a bit lesser speed compared to our usual VM. So you could actually upgrade yours to maybe 16 gig of RAM if you want to, or 8 gig. Everything depends on what your workload and your cost budget for this particular VM. Okay, so we have our Windows Server up and running at this time. And if you want to confirm if we actually have this Windows Server, you can come to this environment. Maybe let's say just to confirm, you could just Windows R, then say Win version, I think. Yeah, so if you see this, it's showing us that we have Windows Server 2022 and it's running at the moment. All right, so this is how to create the Windows Server from the Azure portal. Then the next thing we are going to do is to create a Windows Server using CLI. So let me minimize this particular one. So let's go back to our documentation and go back to CLI. So we created the first project of how to deploy using Azure Portal. The next thing is to create a Windows Server using Azure CLI. So from this documentation, if you want to create the Windows Server, The initial thing you need to create is your resource group, then followed by creating the virtual machine and modifying the image you want to use. So for us to get started, I'm going to go practical. First, this is the environment we went to, right? And we deployed this server machine. So before we go deploy the server machine, first thing you need to do is you need the interface from your Azure portal. So where we have this hamburger sign, you see we have so many resources for Azure here. We don't need that side. You have the search bar. We don't need that side. So just at the end of the search bar, we have Copilot and we have Cloud Shell. So this Cloud Shell is where you run your commands. So you click on this, it shows you an interface at the bottom of your Azure portal. So it's a request for Cloud Shell API to come up. Then once that is done, we can then populate our CLI command. So I'm going to call this test dev rg for the Windows server we want to create. So just to make things nice and smooth, we are going to create a Windows Server 2016 instead, and also deploy the Windows Server 2016. Okay, so once this is populated, you can actually maximize this because we majorly need the, or you could just drag this to the top of it. Okay. Yeah, because what we need majorly is this environment because we are trying to use our CLI. So you can switch to Bash or you can switch to PowerShell. So if you switch to Bash, it kind of gives you this environment which is like dark in color, right? So more like a Linux environment. So you can also switch back to PowerShell. So, but both of them should run your CLI command as well. So I have the CLI command already populated. So in this case, I'm going to be deploying a Windows 2016 server instead of Windows 2022 data center server. Okay, so here is the command I'm going to run and paste it. Okay, let me just paste this. Okay. All right, so we have resource group as test dev, location as West Europe, and we have AZ group create resource group location. So it's going to create the resource group in West Europe, and the name of the resource group is going to be called test dev resource. All right, so let's press enter. Okay, so the CLI works here in the Bash environment, and it was able to create our resource group as test dev and provisioned successfully and created in the location of West Europe. Now the CLI works successfully in the Bash environment. So the next thing we need to do is to run just this command to create the VM. So instead of you editing all this, you could just run this and we can create our VM. So now when we paste this in here, we paste this. Okay. All right. So we have AZVM create the resource group, which is test VM, test dev rg. The name of our VM is going to be my VM. Then the image is Win 2016 data center. Then admin username is Azure user as well. Then admin password is going to be my password one too. So you could change your password later on. Now just this command create the same VM we created in the Azure portal. So we're going to just type in enter. Then it does the magic all by itself. So selecting you can start maybe reduce. So it's kind of giving us that the nearest location to my place is UK South. So it's more or less giving us the lower cost if we use a VM deployed close to us just because of redundancy sake. All right, so you can be living in somewhere in Europe and you are deploying a VM, let's say in US. So you may have a bit of latency issue, but when you deploy a VM closer to your region, it's kind of cheaper and also it's faster when it comes to accessing your virtual machine. So this is more or less the update is giving us from our end here. So it's going to be running this at the back end, trying to deploy the Windows 2016 data center VM, and at the end of the day, it's going to then allocate the size automatically. So it's going to check from the preferred size I use often. So I use D series and B series often. So you should be expecting that this Windows Server 2016 data center should have also a B series or a D series SKU or VM size, and the VM as well should be located in the West Europe. And I'm going to be accessing the VM with this unique username and password already created. So it's going to run for a while, and at the end of the day, we should have our virtual machine set up from the Azure CLI environment. So at this point in time, we can just go and have a glass of coffee while we wait for the deployment to take place accordingly. But then the CLI is kind of faster, so this is more or less you writing your command with um, with the Azure CLI, which is faster. So as you can see, last like in how many minutes now we have our virtual machine set up, and you see the configuration. It has no FQDN. It has the ID, which is my VM. You can see. So it's already created the virtual machines at this point, and the VM is located in West Europe. It has the MAC address. The VM is currently running in Power State. It has a private IP. It has a public IP. It has a resource group and no zone. So it kind of make a very easy peasy VM for us. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to minimize this. Then I'm going to try to identify the VM from this end because we need to start the VM as well. So let's go to home. Then I'm just going to find maybe VM. I have a couple of VMs already. So the name of the VM is called my VM. So we have my VM already set up. All right. So we have the VM here, and this is the resource group. So the VM has my VM. It has the DIX. It has the NSG, IP address, NIC, and the VNets. So when you click on my VM, you can see it has one of the size I use often, which is this series. So I pick it from the recommended size I use. Then it has a public IP, it has a private IP. The guest agent is ready, so it's all good for deployment. Then we're using the data center 2016. Connect this VM also by downloading the uh, this remote desktop client, or we can also connect from Bastion. Though when you connect from Bastion, you kind of prepare Bastion environment for you. So I don't want to set up Bastion because you need to deploy Bastion and then connect. So Bastion allows you connect just from your internet, like from your browser itself, which is very, very secured. So we are going to just connect with the default or the usual connect by either downloading the RDP or accessing with the private IP address. So I'm not scared of this because I'm going to delete this VM afterwards. So you're not hacking this VM because I know my public IP is already exposed right now. So I'm downloading these, and yeah, I have it as my VM RDP. So I just double click. I just downloaded my clients. Then you click on connect. It gives you an environment. Okay, then you can put your password. So like my password is let me remember. Okay, password 12. So 12. All right. So I just want to access this VM so I can show you the Windows environment for Windows Server 2016. Yeah. So Azure user, I use Azure user as well for my username. And I've been able to deploy two VMs just today. So we deployed the first one from Azure Portal, which is the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Edition. Then we also deployed the Windows Server 2016 Azure Data Center Edition. Now it's loading, it's coming up. This is a server machine, these are not clients. So if you want to deploy yours, you can deploy maybe Windows client or Windows Client 10 Pro or 11. The servers are majorly used for more or less your workloads, like maybe your database, your web apps, web servers, and all that. So, yeah, I think the VM is already boot to the desktop. So, let's confirm if we actually have Windows Server 2016. So, I'm going to type Windows R, then type in WinVar on my box environment. Yeah, just say WinVar. All right, so it's going to pop up a dialog box telling us that this is Windows Server 2016 data center. So yeah, so this is Windows Server 2016 environment. Okay, and this is the Server Manager dashboard for the Windows Server. Okay, so this is how you can deploy your Windows Server 2016 using the Azure CLI. Alright, so in the last video we created two virtual machines, which is Windows 20 Server 22 and 2016. So we need to delete them from the resource from our subscription, so we don't really incur extra costs. So there's a command called az group delete dash name, then the tests. So we're going to just delete, focus more on the resource group, right? So I'm going to delete this resource group, which is this. I'm going to paste it in this command group delete name test rg, then you tap enter. It's gonna ask you, are you sure you want to perform this operation? Yes. Yeah, because we don't really need it, we only use it for testing purpose. So this is the resource group here. Let me see if I can show you the details we have in it. So I'm going to just take this down a bit. It's going to delete the resources and all the dependencies in it. So when we refresh it next time, we don't really get to see any of these files in it. So that's just how we can clear up the resource group and all the dependencies that we have in it. Okay, so it's already deleting the resource group. Then the other resource group we need to also take out is the win test rg. So once this is done, we are going to delete for the Windows 22 data center as well. So this is just the simple way to delete the resource group. After you finish any test deployment, it's advisable you delete your resource group or your resources so you don't incur extra charges, because you keeping them running without any usage, it's make you incur extra charge, which I don't think you would like to do. All right, so it's already deleting all the dependencies in the resource group. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward it now. I think it's deleted. So because of the time it took, I'll just fast forward it to confirm if it's really deleted. So if you want to check it, you can refresh this, then you should see, yeah. So this resource group does not exist because there's no match, then okay, so the last thing we need to do is to also confirm for other ones. So, but because of our time, these are other projects you may want to consider, probably deploying using PowerShell. Then, but in the next video, we will have to create how to deploy virtual machine from Azure Portal using maybe Terraform, using Biceps, using ARM templates. So these three are majorly used for infrastructure as code, because infrastructure as code means you could deploy multiple VMs, identical VMs or so, using the specific configurations that you already have in mind, and you could run them remotely. You could also run them from a script. So these Power Cloud Shell, Terraforms, Biceps, and ARM templates are very great tool to deploy several VMs, several parameters as well. So I'm going to stop here for today, and feel free to subscribe, like, and share this video. And in case you also have any question when it comes to deployment in CLI and Portal, you could drop your question in the comment section. I'll be glad to attend to your question. And if you deploy your virtual machines, but then your guest agents keeps to be on ready state or not ready state for a long time, you can also still access the VM, right? So don't get panic. Sometimes your not ready state can be longer than usual, so that doesn't stop you from accessing your virtual machines. For Windows, you could still access your virtual machines, or you can just shut down the VM and also restart the VM. All right. So I'll be stopping here at this point, and thank you for watching, and bye for now.